I have a controversial opinion. I think countries that are dictatorships are run better. Humans don't deserve freedom. You know, and you know, at first it was crazy when he said it, but as he was telling me, it actually started making sense. He said, look, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but in Dubai, you can't put a bad review on a business. You can't talk bad of things, right? There's a bit of restriction there, but they've got the restriction perfect. It's actually such a perfect restriction there that you still feel free. But he goes, look at countries that have all the freedom in the world. Right? Like they're just going crazy. They're literally pushing the boundaries to the next level, and you know. So he says, I think the countries that have a slight bit of touch of dictatorship actually do a lot better.
Yeah, I don't believe. Well, I mean, there's two interesting statements there. The first one is about, you know, are dictatorships run better? I mean, I think it just depends on who the dictator is,
Sure.
and if they're wicked or if they're benevolent or somewhere in between. Do human beings deserve freedom? I absolutely think human beings deserve freedom, right? It's the most basic thing that exists. If you just were landed on a desert island, you know, you would have freedom. It's one of the most basic human rights. I think the big question is, how do you formulate a society to deal with it? I think a lot of people are not well equipped to handle unlimited freedom. I mean, if we were, you wouldn't need laws, you wouldn't need social norms, you wouldn't need social codes, whatever, because everyone would just do the right thing all the time, and that's not reality. Human beings have a sinful nature. Not everyone knows how to, I mean, it's funny, you have people who are out there trying to control the world and control other people, and most people struggle to even control themselves, right? Most people can't master themselves. Most people can't even get themselves to a healthy body weight and maintain it.
Damn.
Most people can't go to the gym regularly and train regularly and drink enough water and have good sleeping patterns. Just self-mastery is incredibly difficult. So yeah, I get the point. I mean, let me not go off on some huge tirade, because I've got a lot I can say on that subject, because I think about it a lot. Because I also don't think that I don't think true freedom really exists when you have states and you have governments, right? The truth is that everywhere has its own restrictions and boundaries and laws and codes, and they differ from place to place and from nation to nation and state to state, but they all have them, right? There's no country, there's no country you can name me and say, oh, this country is free. I can give you a very obvious thing that shows you that it's not, right? Somewhere like the United States of America, obviously known as, you know, bastion of freedom and liberty. I'm like, all right, bro, don't pay your taxes, see what happens. Right? Don't give 30 to 40% of your money to the government every year. See what happens. See how free you are.
And not be given safety, peace, security.
Yeah, see how free you remain, right? There's just stuff you can do in some places, stuff you can't do in others, and you either are subjected to, or you kind of pick the flavor of authoritarianism that you can deal with. It's a sliding scale. It's not, you know, obviously the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not playing some moral equivalent saying that they're on the same level as, you know, the UK or the US or Australia or anything like that. I mean, Australia, freedom, bro, people were banned from leaving the country for what, two and a half years, couldn't come, couldn't go. People in Victoria couldn't go, what, 5 kilometers from their own house.
I was there.
People, exactly. Yeah. And then people are, Australia is a free country, and I'm laughing, like, bro, what are you talking about? You can't go outside, bro. Like, and they're like, oh, well, that's temporary, that's different. And it's just like, man, you know, they can...
I was enjoying it, to be honest. I own 9 gyms in Australia, and the government gives you $1,500 per gym per week, per business that you have to close down. That's directly impacted by COVID, and mine was one. So I'm making $1,500 per gym per week. And, you know, no rent, no staff wages, nothing. I'm just at home watching Seinfeld and smoking weed. Like, bring back the lockdowns. Bring back the lockdowns.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, it was all right for some people. But,
I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, you know, you touched on something very interesting there. You're right. A little bit of dictatorship is good. But, you know, the thing is, it has, you know, dictatorship, I think, is good if there's no... If the leader isn't sadistic, if he's not causing trauma to the people and causing harm, if he's not a sadistic, sick individual, then it's kind of good.
Yeah, benevolent king. Yeah. Benevolent king. I think that I don't know who studied this, but I think actually that is known that is the most efficient model if you can actually get it to work and you truly do have someone who's benevolent, right? The ideal governance would be to just have an angel, right? So a sin-free, completely benevolent individual or power who makes all the decisions, and they always make the right decision, and they never intentionally harm someone, and they're completely free of corruption, and they can't be messed up by money or whatever it is. And the truth is that's typically not humanity. So why people generally tend to prefer, or at least have been sold to prefer, the idea of democracy is because, or even something like a constitutional republic like the US, is you've got more checks and balances. You have people involved in the mix. You've got whole voting systems. If you don't like that person, you can vote them out and you can bring somebody else in. But ultimately, that often just ends up becoming a binary split where you just end up with two big political parties. And you just bounce back and forth between the two, and a lot of times nothing really gets done or changes. So there is a bit of an illusion element to it all. Some people won't like me saying that, but the truth is, I mean, and now in the US, half the people don't even think their votes count anyway. So yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know.
It's 100% true, and I think that's why Dubai works so well, because it's like a leadership. Like, somebody leads the country, and we don't need to wait for so many votes. In Australia, let's say in a democracy, America, you got the Democrats and you got the Republicans. Even if a Republican doesn't agree with the bill, he's still going to side with his team.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why when I have a meeting with my staff, I talk last. Because I know if I talk first, the kiss asses are going to align their beliefs with me and not actually tell me what they think.
Yes.
So I talk last. What's everyone think? And then I kind of take it in. Sometimes I don't even give them my attention. I kind of leave because I'm not ready to make a decision. Yeah. So you don't want to do that. You don't want, and obviously nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. It's like, okay, he voted this, 50 votes for yes, 50 votes for no. It's whatever, we throw it out.
And you can't plan ahead.
You can't plan ahead.
You can't plan ahead. So in the US in particular, one of the issues I think that they can have in a way, it's just a function of the system, is there's always a focus just on, everything runs on 2 to 4 year election cycles. So when you have people in power, whether they are mayors, whether they are governors, presidents, whatever it may be, the administration is always just focused on winning the next 2 years, right? And right now, all the focus is on winning 2024. After 2024, whoever wins that, the focus will be on the 2026 midterms. After that, then it's back on the 2028 election. And every time the new president comes in, they undo the executive policies of the previous one, and then they put in their own stuff. So it's sort of this step forward, step back, step forward, step back, step forward, step back. And some people think that's good. Some people think the gridlock is good because it prevents any side from sort of totally dominating. But at the same time, it means that someone can't be, there can't be any vision 2040 for the USA. There can't be any vision 2040 for the UK because there's no consistent chain of power and desire to make that happen, right? It's too far ahead. Whereas in other places, you can say, okay, look, this is where we want our nation, state, city to be by 2040, and you can create a plan and actually execute a plan, rather than, someone comes up with that idea and then the next person just throws that all away and wants to go in a complete other direction. Next person comes in and throws it all away again, and it can cause a lot of stagnation, but politics isn't the solution anyway, so what do I know?
So much wasted energy. Right? Like, so much funds being thrown in a particular direction, and then the next person comes in and just reverses the whole thing. Well, what about the $1 trillion that we just spent to go in that direction?
Yeah.
So much wasted energy, so much wasted money, wasted resources.
And there's also no accountability because of that, right? There's no accountability. Someone can just say, oh, we're going to do this and this and this. You can come in, you can spend trillions and trillions and trillions, and you're never held accountable for it. Because then you just slink off into the background after a few years, and now the people have to deal with all the problems. They have to deal with the rising cost of living. They have to deal with the inflation. They have to deal with the job market and the whole economy. Meanwhile, you've already disappeared off, and they can't hold your feet to the fire. So.
Yeah. And plus, they can also give themselves presidential immunity. A president can give himself immunity.
Yeah.
So if later they come get him, I've signed this bill, you can't get me.
Exactly.
You know, it's almost like playing Monopoly. You know what I mean? I'm home base. You can't get me.
Yeah.
I know I did that, but I'm home now.
Exactly.
If you like this video, consider subscribing. We do weekly podcasts with experts in every industry to help you find direction and guide you on your way. Now let's get back into it.
Before, it was just like, look, the West is the best.
Yep.
And if you want to live a comfortable life, then this part of the world is the place. We've got the nicest cities, we've got the best economies, highest GDP, whatever it is. And the rest of the world was not able to compete. But what's happening now is the rate of growth and the speed of improvement in many other parts of the world, parts of Asia, the Middle East, parts of South America, small pockets of Africa, and so on. They're progressing at a faster rate. They're massively improving. Look at Dubai now compared to Dubai 20 years ago. Whereas if you compare, LA now to LA 20 years ago.
The opposite.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Going backwards.
It's moving backwards. So I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, look, we're in the first quarter of a new century. Still in the first quarter. And there's going to be a lot of massive changes that occur this century. And most people don't think that far ahead, and they don't have enough of a global worldview to think of what the potential implications of that are going to be. I mean, I think when I was born, I want to say when I was born there were around maybe 170 to 175 countries in the world. Now there's 195, 196. So even the countries, 50 years from now, we're not going to even have all the same countries. Some of them are going to merge, some of them are going to separate. So people have this idea, we as human beings, we're naturally heavily biased towards the present. We live in the here and now because that's what we can control. But so people always think the world is going to be sort of like it is right now. And you're not thinking, oh, actually, that thing that exists, like that can completely change. That country that you right now think is rubbish and you wouldn't want to live there, or that city that you think is a dump, in 50 years, that could be the hottest place to live. That could be a booming economy. That could be the place that people are flooding to. And that other place, or whether it's a city, a state, a country, which is booming and you think it's all amazing, in 50 years, especially on that type of time horizon, it could be a dump. Detroit used to be the wealthiest country, not just in the US, but in the world. Where I was born, Luton, used to be one of the wealthiest cities in the UK. Now it's one of the least desirable places to live. I remember in Detroit when they were selling houses for $1. Right, because you had all the whole motor industry. That whole thing was booming, and then those jobs get shipped off overseas. You've got globalization. So I'm just saying things change. Things change, and they change faster than people necessarily realize, especially on a global scale. And I feel like the speed of change is faster now because of the technology we have and the communication tools and everything like that. It's not the acceleration is also happening. So I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be very disruptive. We're in the early innings of it, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds. Some of it is scary, but with it's going to come a lot of opportunity as well.